92.5 Fox News. Right all along.
Trey, Radel, your host of The Drive. All right, so Byron Donalds is going to be delayed. He is just, as I've been told by his staff, pulled into a high-level meeting. So we have a call. I don't know. We have a call coming in. I don't know who that's from. I'd actually say, is that him? All right, here we go. Congressman Byron Donalds joining us. Congressman, how are you?
I'm good, man. It's been an interesting day, but I'm good.
It is. It's great to have you on. I have just kind of gone over a little bit with everyone right now on how you've been working, putting in long hours to try to make something work here and strike a deal that is the absolute most conservative deal while keeping government functioning. I've also talked a little bit about how you've had some detractors there, including Matt Gaetz, who at times like a petulant child has been calling you out by name and going after you on Twitter. But let's put all that aside for a second. And Congressman, can you just, you're here at home with us, man, and talking to your people. Can you give us all just the lowdown of where things stand, what you're doing, and where you want it to go?
So where things stand right now is that the continuing resolution or sequester, because that's probably more accurate, that would have cut 8% of government spending and actually forced a fight for securing our border. There's just not the votes for that. And, that's just where we are. Members want to see the 12 appropriation bills, which, I got to tell you, Trey, this has been a real failure of leadership here on Capitol Hill. After the debt ceiling deal was passed, I told, the Speaker's office and I told the leadership team very clearly that these spending levels are not going to work for members in this conference. We need to cut them lower. Here's the reason why. And for months, been relaying that message. It's basically hit the fan this week, which is fine. I mean, Trey, nothing in this place really works until you're hitting the leverage or a leverage point or a cliff, and everybody scrambles to get the job done. So today, what we've been doing is being in the room with members from all parts of the conference to really negotiate and figure out what top-line spending numbers are going to be in the 12 appropriation bills. And actually, I just walked out of a meeting where, we got to set the overall spending for the government. We got to set the overall spending for the 12 areas of the government. And then we got to figure out all the program changes, the policy changes, the spending cuts, et cetera, within those 12 programs of the government. So it's easy to just say, I don't like this or I don't like that. When you get people in the room, like I've been in really the last 4 or 5 months, and try to nail down, okay, let's figure out how we can land this thing, that's when it starts getting really dicey. And so we're figuring it out, one step at a time. But, that's the only way to do this. And I'll add, and I'll let you ask whatever, Trey. We have members who want to sign what's called the discharge petition with Democrats for a clean, continuing resolution. It will be a continuation of Nancy Pelosi's spending, a continuation of Nancy Pelosi's policies. My plan was to cut spending 8% and to make a massive, almost a 180-degree reset on border security policy, going to the strongest border security policy in the nation's history. That was my position. People can disagree with it. You could say we should just shut it all down. But I will argue, and not even argue, I'm just going to tell you the facts. The shutdown does nothing to stop Jack Smith and his weaponization and his persecution of Donald Trump. It does not, and I've told the president that myself. Shutdowns don't stop Jack Smith, and what would actually occur is that we would have moderate members go to the Democrats to avoid a government shutdown, and when that occurs, there is no leverage in the House to be able to stop the weaponization of our government, secure our border, or get our government under control.
And let me, Byron, sort of really encapsulate that for everyone listening right now. You right now, man, you are in the thick of it. I know that you just walked out of meeting after meeting after meeting. And if I may, here's what Byron is saying. You can sit there and run your mouth all day. You could go on Twitter and use your however many characters to say everything sucks and everything's bad. No, no, no. But here's what ends up happening. If you just say no to everything, then all you're going to be left with is a piece of trash, horrific continuing resolution that will stay at the same spending levels. So what our congressman is getting at here, that he's been trying to work with ultra-conservative members like himself, like us listening right now, he's been trying to work with everyone to be able to get, and you correct me if I'm wrong here, Byron, but what I would call the best and most conservative deal that you can strike. Because if that deal is not struck, we then go back to whining, no, 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 and shut it down. And once that happens, as Byron so eloquently stated, all leverage is lost, and you go back to the crappy spending levels that Nancy Pelosi set. Is that a fair assessment?
No, that's very fair. And look, I've talked with people who've been, around, our, politics and the conservative movement, Trey, for 2 decades, people who served in the Reagan administration. And I've asked them, I said, look, what do you think if we did this? And they said that would be by far the most conservative measure ever as a stopgap to give us leverage points to deal with the Senate. And let me explain to people, the border policies that Joe Biden has launched on this country have been the most disastrous thing our country has ever seen. So much so that the president is in New York right now, and he will not meet with Eric Adams, the mayor of New York. The reason why that is because there is Democrats who are furious with Joe Biden, and it is Joe Biden's radical staff will not reverse course. So if you force an argument on border security, you now put the Democrats on massive political defense, and it gives our moderate members who are in blue districts, in blue states, and in blue cities, it gives them an opportunity to say that they're fighting for their people. It keeps them on our side to then negotiate the rest of our spending bills so that you can actually take care of Jack Smith and the Department of Justice, so you can get the weaponization out of the FBI and out of the intelligence community, that you can actually get the DOD focused back on being lean, mean, and killing the enemy, and not all this woke foolishness that has led to the lowest level of volunteerism in the history of the country for our military. That's what's at stake here on Capitol Hill. And so, look, I know there are people at home who say, Byron, this doesn't work. Just shut it all down. I'm telling you, we have members up here who will not let that happen. For them in their districts, they're going to say, Byron, I can't do it. What I'm going to do is sign this discharge petition. I'm going to do a clean CR. And if that happens, there's no ability to do the things that conservatives across the country want to actually see accomplished.
Congressman Byron Donald's on the line with us right now, laying out reality. And this is coming from me, who, by the way, I was in the modern day longest government shutdowns while I was there. And what ended up happening was exactly what Byron is laying out here, that once conservatives began falling apart, not sticking together, and what ends up happening is that you had, at the time, the speaker there, John Boehner, walked right over to Nancy Pelosi and said, look, here's what we're going to do. I need you to guarantee me enough, and I will guarantee you enough on our side, and we will pass yet another horrible, crappy continuing resolution. And this is exactly what Byron is laying out that he's trying to avoid. So Congressman Byron Donald's on the line with us right now, laying all this out. There are a couple other things here with just a couple minutes left. I know how busy you are, Byron. If I just want to address some of the ridiculousness that's been put out by some of your colleagues, you've already talked about Jack Smith and the DOJ. Even if the government is shut down, the DOJ is still operational and functioning. The investigation continues. However, you also had Marjorie Taylor Greene say that you're going to push to keep funding Ukraine, which you have avidly said no to. Can you address that for us?
Yeah, so what Marjorie is talking about is that within the DoD budget, there was $300 million for our troops to train our allies across the world. What Joe Biden has done is he's focused that program on training Ukrainian soldiers. So what we're doing in a continuing resolution is about, it's basically about $20 million that will go to continuously allowing our troops to be trained so that they go and train our allies across the world. That's what she's talking about. I think some of the misread from her side is that when they passed the supplemental Ukrainian package under Nancy Pelosi, they wrote that language into essentially United States code that references from the CR.
In the NDAA?
Funding.
Byron?
No. This was the supplemental tied to the omnibus deal that Nancy Pelosi did. By the way, that 17 Republican senators did. So that's what she's referring to in terms of public law. But that's a supplemental. We've not funded any supplementals, and we're not going to fund any supplementals. So that's, to me, is just a red herring. We've talked about that internally. She disagrees. I disagree. But let me just be very clear. There is no Ukrainian money going on. We're not talking about any supplementals for Ukraine whatsoever.
There you have it. Congressman Byron Donalds laying out where he stands, what he's pushed for. And I can't help myself but to reiterate again, everything that he stated here is spot on. And I was in Congress and working and living through the last government shutdown. And that what ended up happening is exactly what Byron is trying to avoid. But if you have these few members, which is such a slim majority, then and you just hear them saying no, no, no to everything, it will end up with just another crappy, clean CR. Congressman, before we wrap up this evening, anything else that you'd like to add?
Well, look, I will say that, I think the CR or, the sequester, CR, however you want to call it, that's pretty much dead. I think that right now, but what has occurred as a result is that members are in the room discussing and negotiating what top line spending numbers are. And it's hard because now you're starting to get into programs that are in members' districts, affect different people, so on and so forth. So there's going to be a lot of hard decisions that are going to be made over the next couple of days. I'm going to be here working through that the entire time. And look, I'll say I could easily go out and do media and stuff like that. People have probably seen me walking, in the halls talking to like a press gaggle. But I'm in these rooms, in these negotiations, talking with every one of our members to get the most conservative positions passed out of the House of Representatives that is possible. And people need to understand what we do here is going to help us, whether help us or hurt us when we have to negotiate spending with the Senate, because the Senate does not care about reforming our government. They want to spend more money than the House wants to, and they want to spend more money than the debt ceiling deal they signed off on a few months ago, a deal, by the way, I resoundingly rejected.
Congressman Byron Donalds, there you have it. While he's in the rooms working, I will tell you that the people that you do see being the loudest in the room on Twitter and in media are not in those rooms. Byron, thanks, man. Thank you so much for your time, your insight this evening, and I hope we catch up again soon.
All right, take it easy, Trey. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Again, Congressman Byron Donalds, always find him on Twitter, on all social media. We're going to take a break, be back. I'm Trey Radel. This is The Drive.
92.5 Fox News. Right all along.